All right, buckle up because today we're diving deep, really deep into the story of someone we all think we know, St. Michael. But trust me, the secret struggles of St. Michael, the truth behind heaven's greatest battle paints a whole new picture. We're going way beyond the whole warrior angel thing, folks. This deep dive, we're uncovering the internal battle, the stuff that really makes this story fascinating.
It's wild how the book takes this iconic figure and makes you see him in this totally different light, you know? Like right off that, in the first part, we're talking heaven before earth even existed.
Yeah.
And Michael's already wrestling with these huge questions about existence itself.
No kidding. And the way they describe it, it's so vivid. Angels woven from light and purpose talk about setting the scene. But even in this perfect place, with all that light and purpose, Michael's still searching for something more. What's driving that, you think? What's with all the deep thoughts, Mr. Angel?
I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
That's the seed of this whole internal struggle he's got going on. He's not content just following orders. He needs to understand the why, the reason behind it all. That need, that drive to dig deeper, it shapes everything that comes after.
Makes sense. It's like us, the listeners, we're not here for the surface level stuff. We want to understand the complexities. And speaking of complex, there's this part in part one where Michael seems kind of, hesitant about humanity. Can you unpack that a bit?
Oh, absolutely. Even before Lucifer's rebellion becomes a thing, Michael's already expressing these doubts about humans, about us. He's questioning our flaws, our capacity for darkness, especially compared to how he sees angels, all perfect and pure.
So he's not exactly rooting for Team Human right out the gate. That's a far cry from the Saint Michael we think we know, the one who's supposed to be our champion.
Exactly. And that internal debate he's having, trying to reconcile God's love for humanity with what he's seeing as our, let's say, less than angelic tendencies. That's what makes him such a complex, relatable figure.
It's like he's got this tug of war going on inside. This isn't just a simple good versus evil situation. It's about those gray areas we all struggle with, the stuff that makes us question our own beliefs.
You got it. And things get even more complicated in part two when Lucifer, who used to be the most radiant angel of them all, starts stirring up trouble in heaven.
It's interesting you say that about Lucifer being radiant. The book doesn't paint him as this inherently evil being from the start, does it?
Not at all. And I think that's a huge part of what makes Michael's internal struggle so intense. He's not just up against some random bad guy. He's facing the downfall of someone he respected, someone who used to embody everything good about heaven.
It's kind of tragic when you think about it. To be so close to the light, as the book says, and then fall so far.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that tragic element, that's what makes this story so much more than just a simplistic good versus evil story. Because how do you fight an enemy who was once your friend, your comrade? That's the question that will hang over Michael as we get further into this story.
Yeah, and it's in part two where things really get going. Lucifer's not just grumbling in a corner anymore. This is full-on descent spreading through heaven. You can feel the shift, like the air's getting heavy.
Yeah, and the way they describe Lucifer's tactics, it's almost scarier than just an open revolt,
Oh, totally. Way more insidious, like whispering in ears, planting seeds of doubt.
Exactly. He's playing the long game.
Yeah.
Preying on those existing doubts about humanity we were talking about.
Oh, so sneaky.
Saying humans are too flawed, that angelic purity is being, tainted.
And appealing to their egos, right? Like, angels should be in charge.
Big go. We're better equipped to run the universe, that whole thing.
Which, let's be honest, some angels probably found kind of persuasive. So how does Michael handle that? It's a PR nightmare, not just some theological debate.
That's where Michael's deep faith comes in. Not blind faith, but this real understanding of God's will.
Okay, I'm following.
The book makes a point of saying Lucifer wants control. But Michael gets that it's about free will, even if it's messy.
That's such a tough concept. It's easier to want order,
Totally.
But Michael sees that forcing obedience, that's not real love, not real growth.
100%.
We need the option to mess up to really appreciate the good, right?
Exactly. Lucifer's offering this shiny, perfect vision, but Michael sees right through it.
It's sure, a perfectly arranged garden is pretty, but a wild forest, that's where life really thrives.
What a perfect analogy. It's not even about picking sides at this point. It's about the core principles of existence.
No wonder Michael's so torn up inside.
Absolutely. And it all comes to a head in this really intense scene where they confront each other. You can tell how much it's costing Michael. This isn't just some strategy. It's deeply personal.
Especially because, like we were saying before, they weren't always enemies. They go way back. They were close.
Exactly.
The book hints at this shared history, this bond. So for Michael, it's a betrayal on a whole other level.
It cuts deep.
Ew.
And that's what makes his decision to defend heaven, to actually fight Lucifer, even more powerful. It's not out of anger, it's responsibility, I guess. Like, he sees what's at stake for everyone.
And that brings us to part 3, where everything explodes.
Yeah.
We're not just talking philosophical debates anymore. This is a battle for, like, all of creation. And whoa, part 3, things get real. It's like the author just unleashes everything. Heaven shaking, angels made of shadow. I mean, this is a universe-ending showdown.
No holding back, right. And yet, even with all that cosmic chaos, they still managed to zoom in on Michael's inner world. Like, you really feel it.
That's what gets me. It would have been so easy to just make it this big, epic battle, and that's it. But there's this one part right in the middle of everything is exploding where Michael's begging Lucifer to stop, to remember who he was. Heartbreaking.
Totally. It's like that sadness we talked about earlier. It's woven right through the whole fight. Michael knows what Lucifer's throwing away. The waste of it all. It's almost like the victory. It costs him something.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that line, every fallen angel is a wound in the heart of heaven. Michael, he carries that with him, even as he's fighting to save everyone.
And it comes back to that balance he's always been seeking. Remember way back in part 1, his questions about the universe. He's not just fighting for good guys win. It's bigger than that. It's holding everything together, even if it breaks him.
Which makes that final scene after he wins, it's so powerful. The way he asks God, was this the only way? Heavy stuff. You expect a victory speech, but it's like grief, almost.
Totally. And you realize this is who Michael is. He's not just a soldier. He thinks, he feels, he's facing the hard questions about free will, about why things have to happen this way. It's humbling, you know?
Makes you think twice about the choices we make, right? If he's wrestling with all this, what does that mean for us?
Right? We think we know right and wrong, but maybe it's more complicated than that. Every decision, big or small, it all ripples out. We're part of that balance, whether we realize it or not.
Wow. So we started this whole thing thinking Saint Michael, warrior angel, pretty straightforward. But this book, The Secret Struggles of Saint Michael, throws all that out the window. He's compassionate, he's questioning everything, reminds us that even winning has a cost. And sometimes loyalty means making the hardest choices imaginable.
And maybe, just maybe, it makes us look at our own lives a little differently. Are we thinking deeply enough about our choices, about the impact we have? Because we're not just watching the battle. We're right there in the middle of it, shaping the universe with every decision we make.